Okay, so we're gonna make our spring beef feed real quick. So I've got 1 gallon of water here, pre-measured. So a gallon of water weighs about 8 pounds. It's like 8.33 pounds. So for that spring mix, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to get a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm putting in 8 pounds of sugar and basically 8 pounds of water. So I'm gonna add this in. And I'm gonna let that come up to temperature. You don't want your water quite boiling, but you do want it pretty warm. So the water's just about there. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add in 8 pounds of sugar. It's very important whenever you do this to have a big enough pot to do it in. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to stir until it clears up. So I've been stirring, I think about 8 minutes now or so, but as you can see, it's starting to clarify. You can see the bottom of the pot now. You can see the spoon all the way down, and just like I was showing before, you don't want to bring it up to a boil. You just want to get it. You want to get it hot enough to where you can fully dissolve all that sugar into the water. And as you can see, I'm at 173, 174 degrees. So I've not quite got it to the boiling point, what you want. So I believe we've got it where we want it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set it over here in the sink, and we're going to let it cool off all the way before we pour it back into these little jars. We store them in the fridge, and before we add to our beef feeders, we try to let them get up to room temperature before we add it there. And then we also have been using this stuff right here called Pro Health. It's a lot of essential oils and supplements and stuff. It's supposed to help the bees do bee things. But anyway, so I'm gonna set this over here in the sink. And don't mind the eggs. Just went out to the chicken coop. We're gonna let that dude cool off all the way. And while we do that, we're probably gonna find something to watch. All right, so that stuff is finally cooled off. It took us about 6 hours, but it's still kind of warm. So anyway, what I'm gonna add now is Pro Health, and the dosing on this is 1 teaspoon per quart. So I've got 2 quart jugs here, and then I've got a quart mason jar down there, and I don't think that's going to be enough to hold it all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 teaspoons to each of my quart jars, or to each of my 2 quart jars, and add 1 teaspoon to my 1 quart jar. And as y'all can tell, that ain't a whole lot. Some of y'all may be asking or wondering why we don't put this Pro Health in the pot and stir it all in. And I think the reason for that is simply that we don't like to put that in the pots that we cook with, because we still cook with our pots. So now what I'm going to do is very carefully move this over here. And of course you could make a smaller batch. Not nearly as heavy. Now what I will do is promptly spill half of it down the sink. I'm trying to pour it into these jars.
Do we have that funnel?
Maybe, but I think it funnels for a wide mouth jar. Perhaps a paper funnel would work. Perhaps not. There's 2 quarts. I'm gonna try to free pour this one. I would imagine that this probably made a gallon and a half after it all was said and done. And I probably poured, I don't know, 3/4 of a quart down the drain. We'll figure out a better way to do that for next time. But until then, I'm gonna rinse this off and stick it in the fridge. Have a good evening.